Hello YouTube. So I'm about to head in for a leg day, and I thought today would be a really good time to show you guys how I set up for drop sets and kind of talk about some of the exercises that I like to do a drop set for and ones that maybe I don't, and how they can be more effective if set up correctly. So hang tight and we'll get right into it. To start out, I just kind of wanted to explain how I set up for my sets and finish with a drop set. So I'm going to show you two different exercises today using different styles of a drop set. So one is a single leg variation, which is going to be the step back lunge, and the other one's going to be a hip thrust. So the reason I like to do both of these for drop sets is because they can easily be done by yourself, and so you can do them without a spotter, and you'll see how I do that differently between the two exercises. So for this step back lunge, I start with a few warm-up sets. This is actually my first working set. So this is the weight that I used last time for my working sets. Now I do end up moving this weight up for my next set. So working kind of between a rep range of 8 to 12. When the weight starts getting to that 12 rep range, I'm able to get closer to that higher end. I will increase the weight, which oftentimes causes me to drop reps back closer to that 8, and then we'll, kind of progressive overload that way. Now, when I'm doing my working sets, I like to start with my weaker leg and then go into my stronger leg to finish it off. And you'll see here that when I go into my drop set, I actually take breaks in between each leg, just so that my body can kind of recover. Now, when I'm just doing my working sets, I often will not take a break in between legs. You definitely can, and it can help you be stronger on both sides. But I feel pretty good here in this working set to do both legs before finishing out the set. There are lots of other exercises you could do drop sets for, but because I like to do my drop sets where there's hardly any rest in between the dropping the weight, some of those you can't do without a spotter. So for example, like the leg press, I'm not going to do a drop set on that unless I have a spotter to help me take off the weights, so I don't have to get up from the leg press to take off the weight, because that just kind of puts too much time in between your sets and that constant tension. So here in the video, you can see that I'm moving into my final working set, which I'm going to drop set into just body weight. Again, one of the reasons for this being is that I don't have someone here working out with me or spotting me to help me take off the weights and reduce that time in between the reps as I transition. So this is with the heavier weight, so I'm only going to go to 8 reps here before we get really close to that failure. And then I'll simply re-rack the weight and go into body weight. Now, with the body weight, I really try to focus on the squeeze in my glutes and really just get that final pump here. So that's one of the things that you'll see when we move on to the hip thrust is as long as you still feel it mainly focused in the muscle group you're working, you can keep going. If you start to feel other muscles taking over, that's a good sign that your working muscle has gone to failure and you are going to want to stop. So working set finished, you simple re-rack and right into the body weight lunges. Like I said, just as a reminder from earlier, after I do this leg, I will wait 1 to 2 minutes for recovery before going in and doing the opposite leg. Some of these body weight just kind of depends. Sometimes I'll move these reps a little bit faster. Other times I'll do less reps and really go slower. So kind of alternating between the two, and you can kind of feel the difference of how your muscle responds and how fast you get to a pump there. So here we're moving into the hip thrust. Now I set up the hip thrust a little bit differently. You'll notice that I put the barbell on plates. This helps raise it up a little bit and puts me into a better position for my first rep of my set. This way I'm getting my hips in the position I want them to, and it puts less strain on my back. Oftentimes when people are getting into that first rep, you'll see them kind of like shimmy their back, like swing their hips way up and shimmy back just because it's coming off of the ground so low. This is obviously more common for people who are shorter and just not quite as tall. Even though this bench isn't too tall for me, it just helps to have the bar slightly raised so that I can get into a better first rep. Now here, I did work into this a little bit differently than I did with the lunges. So my working sets were actually at a little bit lower weight than this. I moved this up so that this first set was only to 6 reps, right? And from there, I can still stay on the floor, swing the weights off the side, and move into the next one as quickly as possible, which can be a little bit hard with this setup, but it's still faster than getting up and taking the plates off. So when I do this one, as you saw, I didn't have the clamps on. That makes a really easy swing off of that first plate, and I can get right into the next set. Now, you can do this one where you're going for higher reps at each one of the weights, but this is one that I like to do at a little bit heavier weight and just go until I feel other muscles start taking over, or I literally can't get the bar to come up. So if I do start to feel these reps in my quads or too much at my hamstrings, I will stop the set and drop the weight. I think this is a really good reminder for those that it doesn't have to be just that you can't lift the bar up anymore. If you're not feeling the exercise where you're trying to target, you have reached failure or you're not doing it correctly, right? So if you're feeling it where you should in the beginning of your set and then towards the end you start to feel it in other places, then that's just that your muscles have reached failure and you need to stop that set. And if you want to get more reps, you need to drop the weight, or in the case of this drop set, you just lower the weight and keep going. So this is going to round out our video for drop sets. If you have more questions, please feel free to drop them below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.